Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Renita, aka Lene with Lene Creations, and today we are going to talk about the Renita handbag. Okay, so the Renita handbag actually comes with 3 different sizes, and we have our mini, which is the Re-Re. We have the Nita, which is like a medium size, and I've actually been carrying this one around with a crossbody strap. And then you can just see all the stuff you can get in there. I have my AirPods, some wipes, some cards, a mirror, some lip gloss, some hand sanitizer. So it's fairly small, but you can fit a lot of your necessities in this size. And then the last one is the Renita bag, which is a little bit bigger, and this is the biggest size. So this is like the largest size on there. So the bag is made with magnetic snap closure. There are no pockets, so it's like super easy to assemble. It comes together super quick. On the side, we have these screw-in D-rings. You can also use corset D-rings as well, but there are no like D-ring tabs. We're just going to use our hardware for that. And then, like I said, for the middle one, I used a crossbody strap, but each one comes with a different size handle on there. And then also our edges on our handle are concealed, so there's no like raw edges on our handle. But that's the overview of the channel. And excuse me if you hear a couple sniffles. I've been under the weather, but I had to make sure that I got the tutorial done for this bag. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's talk about our pieces that we have to cut out for our pattern. So for your flap, you're going to need your exterior, one lining piece, and one stabilizer piece. This is Decoville Light. For our main body, we're going to have 2 exterior, 2 lining pieces, and also 2 stabilizer pieces. Again, Decoville Light. For your handle, I am going to use a short handle, so this is 4x9 for the mini. And if you're going to do a strap, of course you would do that however long you want your strap to be. Normally at least 52 inches by 4 to make a 1-inch strap. Then for our gusset piece, we're going to need 1 exterior, 1 lining, and 1 stabilizer piece. Again, Decoville Light. 2 swivel clasps. We got these 2 screw-in D-ring connectors. You can also use the corset D-rings. Those will also work as well. But these are the screw-ins, and then 1 magnetic snap with the male and female piece. So here are all of our pieces that we're going to need to make our bag. Right, first order of business is we are going to fuse our stabilizer pieces to our exterior pieces. So for example, our flat piece, we're going to make sure this is centered on here. And then we have 2 for our main body piece, 2 of these here, and then also our gusset piece. Okay, so that's the first thing, is fuse all of your stabilizer pieces to your exterior pieces. Then after you complete that, you're going to mark all of your centers on each of your piece. I promise you it's going to make a world of a difference when you mark all of your centers. And then also on some of your pattern pieces, you have markings. You want to mark those as well. For example, your main body piece, you have a marking where you're going to put your magnetic snap. And then for like your gusset piece, you have a piece where you're going to put your D-ring connectors on there. And then like on your flap, you're going to have where you're going to put the other side of your magnetic snap. So first things first, fuse your Decoville Light onto your exterior pieces, and then mark all of your centers on each of your pieces. Okay, now that we have all of our exterior pieces stabilized, we are now going to work on our flap. So we're going to need our exterior flap piece, the lining flap piece, and then you're going to need the male portion of your magnetic snap, and that's the one that has a little piece sticking out there. So let's get started on our flap. Okay, for our flap, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have your placement here where you're going to put your snap on the lining piece, because we want our snap to go on the lining piece. Okay, so we are going to install our magnetic snap. If you don't know how to install a magnetic snap, I do have a separate video on how to install these if this is like your first time doing it, but we are going to install this piece onto our lining. Now that we have our magnetic snap installed on our lining piece, we are now going to put these two pieces right sides together. We're going to clip all the way around, and then you are going to sew around this edge, leaving this top edge open for turning. Then if you interfaced it and it's centered, your stitches is going to line up right next to your interfacing, which is about a 1/4 seam allowance. Okay, so we're going to sew around this, leaving our top open at a 1/4 seam allowance. If you are making, this is for the Re-Re bag. If you are making the Nita bag or the Renita bag, which are a little bit bigger, then your seam allowance is going to be 3/8, and again, your stitching should line up right up against your stabilizer. Okay, so again, we're going to put these right sides together and stitch. And next, what we're going to do is take pinking shears. If you don't have pinking shears, you can just clip into, at least clip into your curves here. You can leave these, if you don't have pinking shears, you can kind of leave these sides alone, but I'm going to use my pinking shears all around this whole edge here. Again, make sure we left this open because we are going to turn this out and then top stitch. Okay, now that we've turned our flap right side out, I would just take like a seam roller, kind of flatten it out. You just want to make it flat as possible to make it easier to top stitch around. So we're going to top stitch all the way around, including that opening that we had, because that's going to close that up. So you just want to take this to the machine and top stitch all the way around. Okay, on your back exterior piece, you're going to take your assembled flat piece and lay it right side together and make sure that it is centered here at the top. Now, your flap is not going to go all the way across here. You're going to have some space here, so make sure it is centered. But you're going to put this right sides together with the back main piece. So again, if you have something that is directional print or has a print on it and you want to make sure that it has a front and back, make sure you're using the back piece right sides together with the flap, and we're going to base this in. So again, make sure it's centered, and we're just going to base this here at the top to our back piece. I forgot to mention here, make sure that you install the other side of your magnetic snap onto your main body piece. Okay, now that we have our magnetic snap installed on our exterior piece, make sure it's on the front exterior piece, you're going to take your exterior gusset piece and lay it right side together and make sure that your middles are matching here, and then the top of your gusset piece should match the top of this piece. So it should go something like this. And then you're going to sew from one end all the way over to the other end, stopping here. Okay, so right sides together, making sure that our middles are matching, and our tops are matching there, and sew around. Use your stabilizer as your guide. I am sewing up the Re-Re again, so my seam allowance is going to be 1/4, and it should butt up right up against your stabilizer piece. If you are sewing up the Nita or the Renita, your seam allowance is going to be 3/8, but again, it should butt up right up against your stabilizer piece. Okay, so we're going to take this to the machine and sew it up. Now we're going to do the same thing with our front piece, or excuse me, our back piece that we did with our front piece. We're going to take our main body piece and line it up with our gusset. Again, making sure that our centers are matched up here along with our top, and then sew around again using your 1/4 seam allowance or 3/8 seam allowance. All right, so now that we have our exterior turned right side out, our exterior is now complete, and now we are going to work on our lining piece. Okay, now we have our lining pieces. We have our 2 main body pieces and then our gusset piece. We're going to sew this the same way we did our exterior, making sure we line up our centers and then sew from one end all the way over to the other. This time on one side, we're going to leave an opening for us to turn the bag right side out. Okay, now we have our lining done, and we just left like a small little opening here at the bottom to turn our bag right side out. And now we're just going to put it all together. Okay, now we have our exterior piece and our lining piece. Make sure your exterior piece is right side out. Your lining is wrong side out. Does that make sense? And then you're going to stuff your exterior inside, making sure we're lining up our center pieces that we marked earlier. So we're just going to stuff that in there. Stuff it in and making sure that your seams line up and your centers line up. Okay, we have everything pinned around. We're just going to take it to the machine and sew all the way around so we can attach it, and making sure that our seams are lined up, because I know those can shift, but we're just going to go to the machine and sew this around. Okay, we have our, we've sewn all the way around. We're now just going to pull our main bag through this small hole here. Okay, now that we have our bag turned right side out, we've sewn it there. We're just going to top stitch around. It may be a little bit easier if you turn your bag right side out. If you don't have, I have the flat bed. If you have a cylinder, then it'll be easier for you to do it. But if you have, like I do, you just want to turn the bag right side out like I did here, and then top stitch around. Okay, we're almost finished. So we've top stitched around. We're just going to pull our lining out down at the bottom that we had our hole where we turn our bag through. We're just going to turn it in a 1/4 inch and just sew across to close that up. So you just want to fold it, making sure it's straight, and just sew it up. Now it's time to attach our screw and D-rings. You're going to have a screw and a D-ring. You also are going to make sure you have your markings. If you didn't, I've already punched my holes here, but on your pattern piece there is a hole where you're going to attach or put in your screws here. So you put the screw inside of your lining, and then you're going to put the D-ring part on the exterior. I also want to add here too that it would be helpful if you add just a little bit of like E6000 or like glue here to help it kind of stay in place, because I know sometimes the screws can get a little wonky, but if you put some glue there, it'll help. So here is our exterior, almost complete. We just have to do the handle. So here is my handle piece. I'm making the Re-Re. So my handle is going to be 4 inches by 9 inches. Each bag has a different size. And then you also need your swivel clasp. So first thing we're going to do is flip it over to the wrong side, and then we're going to draw a line down the middle of our handle piece. So it should be 2 inches on each side of that long line. Then once you do that, you're going to make a line
halfway in between that mark. So again, it should be a mark at each inch on every end. So you're going to make a mark at the 1 inch, and then again on the other side at 1 inch. So you should have 3 markings on each end at least. Then once you have your marks there, you're going to snip those small ones that you made. I would probably go about 1/4 of an inch in on your snip. So don't go too far. Just kind of snip it at like 1/4 inch. You're going to do that on each side. Then after you do that, you're going to cut those ends at like a 45-degree angle. So you see here, I'm just kind of cutting it at an angle there. So you kind of have like this weird shape up at the top. So you're going to do that for each side. So go ahead and do that, and this is what it looks like. So you should have like this weird shape. So do that on the top and also the bottom. Okay, go ahead and put double-sided tape on each of those short ends, and then what we're going to do is fold each of those ends down so that they kind of are stuck kind of like to the middle. Okay, we're just gonna take off our double-sided tape and fold in, and then once we have each of those sides folded in, we're gonna fold in our long sides to kind of meet where that line is. So then you don't have kind of like those raw edges like we normally would if we were doing like a handle. So now that we have both of those in, we're just gonna fold each of these long sides in towards that line in the middle. Okay, now that we have both of those long edges folded into the center, we're going to put some more double-sided tape on one of these ends and fold it again to make our handle. Then once we have that folded, we're just going to top stitch all the way around to make our handle. So kind of start at one end and go all the way around back to the other end. So we have our 1 inch handle. Alright, make your markings here. There's going to be 1 inch on each end of your handle. You're going to add your swivel clasp and then fold down your handle at that 1 inch mark, and then you're going to add your rivets. And so make sure your rivets are in the middle, and you're going to do that on each end of your handle. Okay, we have our handle completed. The only thing that is left to do is we're going to attach our handle to our bag. And there you have it. The Re-Re. Okay, so our bag is complete with our handle. This is the Re-Re bag. Again, it's super small. For your night out on the go, you can fit your like credit card, your ID, a key, some lip gloss in here, and be on your way for the night. So first of all, I want to thank you for watching the video, and then secondly, you're probably here because you purchased the pattern. I want to thank you for purchasing the pattern as well. So until next time, happy sewing.